She was screeching in octaves only dogs and demons could hear, clutching my mailbox like it owed her rent money. "This is my property, you fraud," she howled, robe flapping, mascara melting, one slipper missing like she'd just escaped a cult compound mid-ritual. And there I was, Malcolm Price, holding a smoothie and watching a woman I'd never met accuse me of stealing my own house. The neighbors peeked from behind curtains like it was the halftime show. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was the opening act of the wildest hallway showdown Brickshire Lane had ever seen. They say moving into a new house is one of life's most stressful events, right up there with divorce and getting audited. But Malcolm Price, he was in love. A freshly divorced 38-year-old attorney with more ambition than furniture, he thought he'd found peace on a cul-de-sac called Brookshire Lane. The houses all matched like Stepford spouses. The lawns were mowed in symmetrical stripes. The air even smelled like lemon-scented HOA control. Serenity, right? Or as Malcolm muttered the moment he stepped out of his U-Haul and onto the squeaky clean pavement, "This place is suspiciously quiet, like cult quiet." The main house was a dream, a two-story craftsman with white shutters, a wraparound porch, and just enough creaky wood to feel historic without risking termites. But it was the detached guest house in the back that sealed the deal. Malcolm wasn't just buying a home, he was buying passive income. His plan? Turn the guest house into a high-end Airbnb for burnt-out executives needing quiet retreats and bachelor parties pretending to be meditation weekend. He threw himself into renovation mode, painted the walls a tasteful sage green, stocked the fridge with kombucha, even rolled up little towels like a pretentious spa. The first week went smooth. He didn't even mind the HOA welcome pack, which included a map of permitted foliage and a passive-aggressive note about trash bin placement. Whatever. Malcolm had law degrees. He could out-neighbor these people with charm and zoning knowledge alone. Then came the second week. Day morning, birds chirping, Malcolm sipping overpriced pour-overs on the porch in a still woke hoodie. That's when he saw it, a curtain twitch in the guest house. Not a breeze, not his imagination, a full-on someone's inside curtain twitch. He blinked, stood up, watched again, nothing. So he did what any sane man would do. He walked around back, unlocked the side gate, and knocked loudly at first, then firmer. Then, with the knuckles of a man realizing his property might be starring in someone else's Airbnb listing, a woman opened the door, 40-something, confidently unbothered, wearing his white guest robe like it was custom tailored. Her hair was wrapped in one of his spa towels. She smelled like his cucumber body wash. "Can I help you?" she asked, with the casual condescension of someone hosting you in your own house. Malcolm stared. "Yeah, this is my guest house. Who exactly are you?" She smiled the kind of smile that gets people slapped in movies. "I'm Barbara. I rented this place from Jason Richardson, from Room Finder. He said this was fully legal." Malcolm's brain short-circuited. "Jason who? Room Finder? What?" "Ma'am," he said, scanning the entryway where his vintage 70s armchair was now being occupied by a half-eaten sandwich. "I didn't rent this to anyone. There's no Jason. This is my house." Barbara crossed her arms. "Well, I paid $600 0 cents for the week, and I have the receipt. Maybe you should leave." And that was the moment Malcolm realized his perfect plan had just rear-ended reality without insurance. Someone had broken into his system, stolen photos of his Airbnb listing, made a fake account, and let in an unbothered squatter with excellent exfoliating habits, standing there on his own porch watching a stranger settle into his throw pillows and insult his ownership. Malcolm said the only thing that made sense. "Someone's been sleeping on my couch, eating my sandwich, and is now wearing my damn bathrobe." And then Barbara closed the door in his face. Malcolm stood frozen outside the door, jaw tight, coffee cooling in his hand. He wasn't sure what stunned him more, Barbara Collins confidently squatting in his guest house, or the fact she'd just gaslit him with the elegance of someone who had clearly done this before. This woman didn't look flustered. She looked established, as if she'd spent the morning alphabetizing her spa products, and now this stranger, obviously the actual homeowner, was rudely interrupting her me time. He knocked again. "Barbara!" "Right?" he said, voice firm. I need to see that receipt. And Jason Richardson, I've never met that man, never rented anything out yet. That guest house isn't even listed. She opened the door a crack, robe still cinched like armor. Then you should talk to him, not me. I found a listing on Room Finder, CopCom. Jason met me at a Starbucks, gave me the keys, and I paid in cash 2 weeks in advance. Cash. Starbucks. No contract, no ID check. Classic Craigslist horror story. But it was that word keys that snapped something in Malcolm's brain. He remembered the spare set he'd hidden in the shed while he was painting the back door. It was temporary, stupid, and clearly now missing. He narrowed his eyes. May I see those keys? Barbara, as if reading his thoughts, reached into her fuzzy robe pocket and held them up with a smug grin. His keys, with the purple Home Depot tag still dangling. He gave these to me. So unless you're Jason in disguise, I don't see what your problem is. Malcolm took a step back, jaw clenched. Lady, you've been scammed. Excuse me. Her voice sharpened like a cheese grater. I am not some gullible moron, thank you. I have tenant rights now. You want me out? File an eviction. You're not a tenant. You're a trespasser, he snapped. Oh, really? She pulled out her phone. Let's ask the police. That's when it all turned nuclear. Before he could explain anything, she was already on the line with 911, her tone suddenly trembling like she was auditioning for Dateline. Yes, hello? There's a man here. He's large, black, threatening. I think he broke in. He says this is his house. I don't feel safe. Malcolm's blood ran cold, not angry. Cold. The kind of cold you feel when every part of your life, your name, your reputation, your existence, is about to be run through a meat grinder because someone decided to spin a false narrative. And someone might believe it. He pulled out his own phone, calmly hit record, and spoke clearly into the camera. My name is Malcolm Price. I'm the legal owner of this property. This woman is trespassing in my guest house, and she just called 911 claiming I'm a threat. I want it on record. I haven't touched her, haven't raised my voice, haven't entered the building. Barbara glared from the doorway. You're recording me without my permission, he smiled grimly. This is Georgia, ma'am. One-party consent. Welcome to Brookshire. She slammed the door. He stood on the lawn, heart pounding, phone still recording. The street was silent, but the kind of silence before a courtroom erupts or a car crash happens. And he knew this wouldn't be solved with a simple conversation. This was about to become a legal mess that no HOA handbook had ever prepared for. You thought this was just a squabble over a guest house? Cute. No. She's about to turn my entire life into courtroom theater, and I don't even get to write the script. It took exactly 7 minutes for the red and blue lights to paint Malcolm's front yard like a 4th of July crime scene. The neighbors peeked through blinds, dogs barked like it was an exorcism, and Barbara, was already outside with the tissue in hand, her robe cinched tighter than a nun's vow of silence. Shaking like she'd just survived a hostage situation, Officer Dempsey stepped out of the patrol SUV, young, buzz-cut, looking like he moonlighted as a protein powder salesman. His partner, Officer Lane, older and far more skeptical, followed closely, eyes already scanning for the lie in the story he hadn't heard yet. Barbara pounced first. Officers, thank God, this man threatened me. He tried to break in. I have no idea who he is. I was just trying to rest when he started banging on the door. Malcolm raised a single brow. Banging on the door, huh? He'd knocked once, twice, tops, but she told it like it was a SWAT raid. Dempsey turned to him. Sir, do you live here? Malcolm didn't flinch. I own this house. My name's Malcolm Price. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Georgia. That guest house, he pointed, is on my property. I haven't listed it for rent ever. This woman broke in using a stolen key. I've got the deed and title inside. Officer Lane gave Dempsey a look that said, let's not jump to handcuffs just yet. Barbara, sniffling on cue, cut in. He's lying. Jason Richardson, he and this man are working together. It's a scam. They both took my money. I've got the roof. I had a screenshot. Malcolm blinked. That was new. She wasn't just a victim now. He was suddenly the co-conspirator. The audacity was so off the charts, he almost laughed. Almost. But he knew better. In situations like this, laughter was not your friend. Paperwork was. So he calmly unlocked the front door, retrieved his attorney bar card, property deed, utility bills in his name, and a photo of himself, hammering the sold sign down the day he closed, printed timestamp and all. Laid him out on the hood of the patrol car like a blackjack hand he knew couldn't be beat. Lane examined each document with the patience of a man who'd seen this circus before. "Miss Collins," he finally said, "do you have a lease agreement? Anything signed?" Barbara froze. "No, but I paid cash. He told me Jason would give me the paperwork later." Malcolm leaned in, voice low. "You accuse me of threatening you. Now you're accusing me of fraud. You do understand slander and false police reports are both actionable, right?" She looked away, clutching her robe like it was shielding her from the truth. Dempsey scratched his head. "So, you never met Jason again after Starbucks?" "No, he ghosted me. But I know this guy's in on it. It's too convenient." Lane gave her a dry look. "Ma'am, there's nothing convenient about this. You're living in a house you didn't legally rent, on someone else's property, with no written lease and no receipts. The only person here with documentation is Mr. Price." Barbara opened her mouth to protest, but paused. That was the moment she realized her bluff was crumbling, yet instead of backing down, she doubled down. "I want a lawyer," she shrieked. "He's trying to evict me without cause." Malcolm exhaled, slow and steady. She just played her last card, but what she doesn't know is, I'm not some landlord with a handbook. I write the rules. She's quoting from page 3. I offered the damn chapter, and just like that, he knew this was far from over. Because the justice system? It doesn't reward the one with the truth. It rewards the one who's prepared for the fight. Malcolm barely had time to celebrate Barbara's reluctant departure. She'd stormed off the guest house like a rejected Real Housewives contestant, robe flapping dramatically in the breeze, muttering something about justice and TikTok expose. He thought that might be the last he'd see of her. It was not. Less than 24 hours later, a letter arrived. Cream-colored envelope, bold serif font, the kind that screamed expensive nonsense. "Greenfield and Associates," the header read. Inside, a lawsuit. Filed, served, stamped, signed. Barbara Collins v. Malcolm Price. Charges unlawful eviction, emotional distress, and my personal favorite, reckless disregard for tenant well-being. She wanted 10 grand for her trauma, which apparently included losing access to the hot tub and accidentally biting into one of Malcolm's jalapeno bagels. Malcolm sat at his kitchen table, rereading it, his mug of coffee untouched. "She's suing me," he whispered to himself. Equal parts disbelief and slow-building rage. A squatter is suing me, cue emergency bourbon. But this wasn't Malcolm's first dance in the courtroom, no sir. He knew the system, knew exactly how to weaponize it back. And this time, he wasn't going to war alone. He called Terrence Whitaker, his best friend since law school and currently a pit bull in a tailored suit working criminal defense. Terrence answered on the first ring. Tyron said, "I knew you'd call," Terrence said. "No hello needed." "Got the envelope. I'm already drafting the counterclaim." "You don't even know the details yet." "You mean besides the fact she broke into your property, impersonated a legal tenant, called the cops on you, and is now trying to finesse 10 grand out of your own mailbox?" Malcolm smirked. "Okay, yeah, that about sums it up." Terrence, as expected, went full beast mode. He filed a counterclaim for trespassing, defamation, fraud, and misuse of emergency services. They included timestamp footage from Malcolm's security cams, transaction voids showing no actual payment, and a printed copy of Barbara's angry Facebook post bragging about finally putting that smug lawyer in his place. Oh yeah, screenshots are forever. But here's the twist. Greenfield and Associates wasn't just any strip mall law firm. Turns out, Barbara's nephew worked there, a fresh out-of-bar exam associate with more ambition than sense. He was trying to make partner by taking down a licensed attorney on his own turf. Malcolm raised an eyebrow when he read the subpoena language. Did this kid seriously use ChatGPT to draft a complaint? Terrence nodded. I cross-referenced the phrasing word for word from an online template. Guy didn't even change the names in some sections. So now it wasn't just a squatter's lawsuit, it was an insult. Malcolm sharpened his case, every detail, every fact. He knew the courtroom better than he knew his own garage. And this wasn't about money. It was principle. You don't invade a man's home, steal his guest house, lie to the police, then slap him with a lawsuit and expect a polite settlement. You think she walked away angry? He said to Terrence. She didn't walk away. She laid a trap. But she forgot who she was messing with, and just like that, it became war. If Barbara thought Malcolm was going to roll over and settle, she clearly hadn't Googled him properly. Malcolm Price was not just a lawyer. He was a lawyer with receipts, literal ones, and he kept them in color-coded folders like a vengeful librarian with a law degree. The response to Barbara's lawsuit wasn't just a legal document, it was a cinematic event. Malcolm attached every shred of evidence with the obsessive flair of someone preparing for war. Exhibit A, security footage showing Barbara unlocking the door with a key she wasn't supposed to have. Exhibit B, audio recording of Barbara yelling, "Jason said this place was mine for 2 months. Don't get smart with me." Exhibit C through F, pictures of his sofa, robe, half-eaten sandwich, and the stain on his guest towel that still haunted him. Plus, a notarized deed, homeowner insurance papers, and his bar ID card looking extra smug in high resolution. Then came the piece de resistance. Malcolm requested a direct sit-down with Greenfield, the attorney of record, at his downtown office. Not to negotiate, to educate. Greenfield, in his mahogany-scented office, looked every bit the respectable professional. Until Malcolm walked in, briefcase snapping open like a bear trap. The vibe shifted from business meeting to documentary about downfall. Malcolm laid out his files like playing a royal flush. "I suggest you look at the timestamp here," Malcolm said calmly, sliding over footage of Barbara unlocking the guest house. "Note the date. Now compare it to the booking confirmation your client swears she received. Spoiler, it doesn't exist." Greenville blinked. Twice, his confidence slipped into visible confusion. "Malcolm, this is the call she made to 911, Malcolm continued, tapping his phone. "She told dispatch I was threatening her life. There's no sign of distress in this clip, just her sipping my organic ginger tea." Greenfield shifted in his leather chair. The room got quieter with every folder Malcolm flipped, like a magician revealing each card, except instead of rabbits, it was Barbara's lies laid bare. "Price, I wasn't aware of any of this," Greenfield began. "Exactly. Which begs the question, how much of your case is actually real, and how much is just your client's fantasy cosplay of law and order?" The silence that followed was thick enough to slice. Greenfield finally admitted what Malcolm already knew. He hadn't vetted Barbara's story at all. She'd come in crying about an evil landlord and a fake lease, and he'd taken the bait without digging a single inch. The next morning, Malcolm got an email. Subject, case withdrawal, Collins v. Price. Body, Greenfield Associates will no longer be representing Miss Barbara Collins in any legal capacity. When your own lawyer quits on you mid-battle, it's not just a red flag. It's the legal equivalent of setting your own ship on fire before the enemy even boards. Malcolm read the email 3 times, chuckled, then texted Terrence. And down goes Goliath. But this wasn't the end. Barbara was stubborn, entitled, and as Malcolm knew all too well, cornered people do unpredictable things. Barbara wasn't just a sore loser. She was the kind of sore loser who thought burning the chessboard would magically make her queen again. 2 days after her lawyer ghosted her, Malcolm got a voicemail. Correction, a 3-minute symphony of entitlement, rage, and thinly veiled threats. "You think you're smart, Malcolm?" she hissed, like a Bond villain who never made it past the audition stage. "I go to the news. I'll tell them you harassed a defenseless woman and stole my belongings. You'll be the next viral scandal. Watch me." Malcolm watched, all right. He watched the audio recording waveforms bounce like a stock market crash as he replayed the message over and over. And just to be sure, he backed it up on 3 drives, 1 cloud, and an encrypted folder labeled Exhibit Z, Karen's Greatest Hits. Barbara called again the next day, this time from a blocked number, as if star 67 could hide stupidity. "Either you pay for my damages or I start making calls people believe women like me, Malcolm." That was the moment it clicked. She wasn't just ranting, she was extorting. And lucky for Barbara, she had picked the wrong guy to try that stunt on. Malcolm didn't just watch legal dramas. He wrote motions for them. He forwarded both voicemails to Terrence, who responded with a single sentence, "She just made this criminal." The next morning, they filed a petition for a no-camp bag restraining order citing harassment, intimidation, and attempted blackmail. Terrence, ever the dramatist, printed the transcript of Barbara's threats in 16-point Times New Roman and highlighted every word that made a judge's eyebrow twitch. Meanwhile, Malcolm drafted a civil suit: defamation, slander, malicious prosecution, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Bonus points for the damage Barbara had done to his Airbnb listing, which now had exactly 0 future bookings after she left a 1-star review titled, "This man is dangerous." Terrence smirked and said, "You know what's better than a restraining order? A restraining order served during brunch." So they hired a process server with a flair for theatrics to deliver the documents while Barbara was seated outside Cafe Magnolia, sipping a 9.00 cents oat milk latte and gossiping with 2 friends who wore matching yoga pants. "Oh, honey, you've been served," the server said, dropping the papers like a mic. Barbara's face reportedly went through all 5 stages of grief in under 10 seconds. Malcolm didn't celebrate. Not yet. He'd been in law too long to think one punch won the fight. But make no mistake, he'd just turned the tables. The woman who strutted in like a tenant was now, officially and legally, a threat to public sanity. It started with a sticky note and a Diet Coke spill. Marcus, Malcolm's intern/legal assistant/true crime junkie, was flipping through Barbara's online filings when something odd caught his eye. "Hey, boss," he called out, squinting at the screen like it owed him money. "Why does this Jason Richardson guy use a vape shop in Temecula?" Malcolm raised an eyebrow. Marcus continued, already halfway down the rabbit hole. "Also, there are 5 other Airbnb disputes tied to that same room finder profile, and in 2 of them, the renter was a white woman in a robe with a yappy Shih Tzu named Peaches." That's when it hit him like a rope subpoena. Barbara wasn't just a delusional squatter with entitlement issues. She was running a grift. And Jason Richardson, not a stranger. He was Barbara's actual son-in-law, which meant this wasn't a one-off mistake. It was a business model. The scam was painfully simple and disgustingly effective. Jason posed as the owner of properties he didn't own, listed them on sketchy rental sites, then funneled unsuspecting renters into guest houses while Barbara played the tenant with rights. After a few weeks of drama and threats, they either got paid to leave or filed enough fake claims to create chaos until the real homeowner gave up. It was malicious, manipulative, and weirdly well organized. "This isn't just fraud," Malcolm muttered, jaw clenched. "It's performer's art with felony charges." Marcus handed him a manila folder. Inside, screenshots, LinkedIn profiles, shady LLC registrations, and Barbara's Yelp reviews, none of which dipped below 2 stars, oddly enough. They presented the case to the district attorney's office, and that's when the cavalry showed up. 2 weeks later, Barbara's house was raided by plainclothes officers in khakis that screamed suburban justice. They seized her laptop, burner phones, printed leases, and most hilariously, a group chat between her and Jason titled "Easy Peasy." The pinned message, a selfie of Barbara smirking with a caption, "He bought it, lol, dumb lawyer." The DA's face when reading that was unforgettable. The investigation broadened. Turns out Barbara and Jason had pulled variations of the same scheme in at least 4 counties. They used fake lease agreements, fake references, and even fake eviction sob stories to flip victim status into payout leverage. And it worked over and over until Malcolm decided to fight back like the world's most vengeful HOA president. Barbara was arrested the following Tuesday. Not a dramatic takedown, more like an awkward pickup at her favorite farmer's market, right next to the kale stand. Jason turned himself in 3 days later, probably realizing the odds weren't in favor of Team Bathrobe anymore. And just when Malcolm thought he could finally exhale, just when he believed justice had done its job, he got a call from the lead investigator. "Mr. Price, we think your case may be part of a much larger fraud ring." We're talking RICO level stuff. Barbara showed up to court in the same robe she'd worn the day she squatted in Malcolm's guest house, except this time it wasn't accessorized with smug entitlement, but an ankle monitor and a very bad wig. The courtroom was packed. Half of Brookshire Lane had shown up with folding chairs like it was a PTA talent show. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with the patience of a sleep-deprived cat, did buy a word of Barbara's "I was manipulated" monologue, not when they had text logs, forged leases, and receipts from a suspicious number of DoorDash deliveries made to homes she didn't own. Barbara was sentenced to 12 months probation, 100 hours of community service, and mandatory fraud counseling, whatever that entails. Derek Winters, okay. Jason Richardson, okay, that dude who thought opening an LLC meant immunity wasn't so lucky. With 5 verified cases of rental fraud, multiple forged documents, and enough digital evidence to rival a Netflix true crime doc, the court sentenced him to 5 years in state prison. His wife filed for divorce before the ink on the verdict was dry. Malcolm didn't gloat, okay, maybe just a little, but only in the privacy of his living room with a whiskey glass in one hand and Peaches the Shih Tzu curled up beside him, rescued from Barbara's property after her arrest, naturally. But karma wasn't done tap dancing. Local media picked up the story first, then regional outlets. Within days, headlines splashed across TV and the internet. Mother-in-law, son-in-law duo busted in suburban housing scam. Lawyer turns the tables. From guest house to jailhouse, the Airbnb scheme that went up in smoke. And then came the talk shows. Malcolm was invited to 3, declined 2, and went on 1. Because let's be honest, who turns down free hair and makeup and the chance to call a fraudster out on national television? The civil suit wrapped up cleanly. Malcolm was awarded full damages, reimbursement for all property damage, repair costs, loss of rental income, and defamation claims. Barbara's face during the judgment? Somewhere between constipated ghost and my retirement fund just imploded. He even got a public apology, delivered on record in court. She couldn't pronounce defamation correctly, but hey, small wins. Still, the best part wasn't the cash or the headlines or even Peaches deciding Malcolm was her new forever human. No, it was walking into his now vacant, freshly cleaned guest house, sitting down on the couch Barbara once squatted on, sipping a hot cup of coffee, and knowing this chapter was finally over. Or so he thought. 3 weeks later, Malcolm got an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside, a handwritten note in shaky cursive. Watch your back, the game isn't over. No signature, just a lipstick kiss. Now, was it Barbara, a prank, or someone else in the fraud chain feeling salty? Hard to say, but Malcolm didn't panic. He just upgraded his security cameras, installed motion-activated lights, and sent a copy of the note to Terrence, who responded with a meme of Liam Neeson in Taken. Because here's the thing, Malcolm wasn't a vigilante. He wasn't a guy who chased bad guys through back alleys or set traps with fishing wire and marbles like some suburban Kevin McAllister. But when push came to shove, when crooks and robes tried to bulldoze into his life and rewrite his story, he didn't just push back, he wrote the damn ending. I'm not in the business of hunting down scammers, Malcolm said in his closing interview. But if you waltz into my yard, hijack my peace, and think I'll roll over, you're in for one hell of a surprise. Look, life's not a courtroom drama, but it is full of people trying to play Judge Jerry and con artists in your story. This tale, it's not just about squatters or legal wins. It's about knowing your worth, documenting everything, and never letting crazy rent-free space in your peace of mind. In a world where anyone can fake a lease and gaslight you with a smile, being calm, smart, and 2 steps ahead is your best defense. Sometimes the biggest flex isn't yelling back, it's letting the facts speak louder. If you've ever had to deal with entitled people, shady neighbors, or Karen-level nonsense, drop your story in the comments. We'd read them all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this made you laugh, cheer, or clutch your coffee a little tighter. Stay sharp, stay chill, and remember, revenge is best served with receipts.